brought to you by the Center for Science in the Public Interest. Hi, I'm Dr. Margot Wu-Tan, Nutrition Policy Director at Center for Science in the Public Interest. Welcome to our lecture, Anatomy of a Supermarket Purchase, where we'll walk you through a few of the ways food companies and supermarkets influence our purchasing decisions without us even noticing. I've been working on nutrition policy at CSPI for over 20 years, working to get healthier school lunches, trans fat labeling, calorie listings at chain restaurants, and reduce unhealthy food marketing to children. CSPI's goal is to provide information and make healthy eating easier. To do this, I've spent my career working to understand how food environments empower or overwhelm us while we decide when, what, and how much to eat. Do you think you are solely responsible for your food decisions? Some think people are entirely in control of what they eat, and parents are completely responsible for their children's diets. I agree each person plays a central role in their own food decisions and those of their families, but that's not the whole story. Even the best-intentioned and most disciplined person can't always be in control of what she eats, and, importantly, this can happen without her even realizing it. Let's use a familiar example. It's something you do when you're rushing home from work, while tackling your weekend errands, or in the 5 minutes before the store closes. Grocery shopping. We walk through the aisles, decide what to put in our cart, and buy it. That's all there is to it, right? Well, if that were true, most of our carts would look a bit different. Instead, we make spontaneous purchases, we buy things we don't need, and sometimes we buy things we don't even really want. To explain why, let's look at 3 different concepts. 1. The unconscious mind. 2. Defaults. And 3. Willpower reserves. I call this lecture Anatomy of a Supermarket Purchase because we're going to use these 3 concepts to break down what is really going on behind the scenes when we buy food at a supermarket. First, let's talk about the unconscious mind, and I don't mean hypnotism. Think about driving a car on the highway. It requires complex coordination. But have you ever snapped out of a train of thought to realize you've been driving along the highway without consciously thinking about it? An experienced driver relies on habit, like autopilot. That's an example of the unconscious mind at work. How does this apply to supermarkets? Well, even if our conscious mind isn't swayed by food ads, our unconscious mind might be. Before you set foot inside a supermarket, you're exposed to ads for many of the products inside. There are 4,500 marketing messages for foods, cars, appliances, and other goods per person per day in the United States. That's 1 ad for every 14 seconds we are awake. Would the food industry spend $33 billion each year on marketing if it didn't work? The food industry also spends money inside the store. Contracts between food processors and supermarkets determine which products get stocked and where. Prime locations cost more because they boost sales. In one experiment, people bought more potato chips when they were displayed on a middle shelf as opposed to a high or low shelf. Checkout and end caps also grab our attention without our realizing it. These prime locations are so important. Supermarkets make more money by charging food processors for shelf locations than they do from customer purchases. Other details have also been carefully planned out, down to the size of the grocery carts, which prompt you to buy more to fill them. Windowless buildings with forgettable music, bakery smells wafting through the store, and constantly reorganized aisles aren't an accident. They also prompt you to buy more. You're unlikely to notice as these marketing and in-store cues influence your unconscious mind and your purchasing decisions, which is part of what makes them so effective. The second concept I want to talk about is defaults. Defaults describe what you get unless you actively choose something else. In supermarkets, package sizes, food formulations, and food pairing defaults can influence what and how much we eat. In one study, 2 groups were given 5-day-old popcorn to eat in different size containers. Nobody in the study enjoyed the stale popcorn, but the group eating out of the larger containers ate much more. Without realizing it, the default size of the container influenced how much the study participants ate. It's not only default sizes. The food industry uses default product formulations to influence our taste buds too. For example, 2-month-old babies who are given salty solutions will reject them. But if some of the babies are fed salty foods for a few months, they will later prefer saltier solutions than babies who are not fed a salty diet. Over the last half-century, the food industry's product formulations have dramatically increased the amount of salt, sugar, and fat in everything from pasta sauce to breakfast cereal. Changing these defaults has shaped our expectations and taste preferences. The food industry has also changed food pairing defaults. For example, in the 1950s, sandwiches were served with a pickle, but through marketing, Frito-Lay changed that default to potato chips. By manipulating the defaults that define our eating habits, food companies guide your hand as you toss food into the supermarket cart, getting you to buy more, unhealthier food than you would have otherwise. The last concept I want to mention is willpower reserves. Oscar Wilde famously wrote, "I can resist anything except temptation." Most people resist temptation regularly, but it is harder to do when our willpower reserves are low, like when we're tired, overwhelmed, distracted, or have already made a lot of decisions. In one study, one group had to pick between a series of objects, while another group didn't make any decisions. When both groups plunged their hands into buckets of ice water, the people who didn't have to decide anything lasted 67 seconds, while the participants who had made a lot of decisions could only withstand the cold for 28 seconds. When you go to the supermarket after a long day at the office, you're likely to make different decisions than when you go first thing on a Saturday. By the time you make it to the register, you'll have already made a lot of choices. The average grocery store carries over 40,000 products. You may also be worn down by saying no to a child who's responding to tempting eye-level displays of products with their favorite cartoon characters or exciting prize offers. Being tired, distracted, or stressed reduces your chances against the wall of candy you will face at checkout, and food companies are counting on that. So while it might feel like we are in control of many of our food decisions, between our unconscious mind, industry-determined defaults, and fluctuating willpower reserves, our decisions are strongly influenced by outside factors. Food manufacturers and supermarkets know this and use our biology against us. They've been increasing profits by pushing us towards purchasing specific foods and drinks and in larger quantities for years. Unfortunately, food marketers' financial goals are often at odds with the public's health. That's part of why 2/3 of us are struggling with our weight, even though we all want to live long, healthy lives. But it's not all bad news. Companies could use their marketing genius to support health rather than undermine it. It's been done before. Disney has changed the defaults at their parks, offering healthy beverages and fruit and vegetables as side dishes with children's meals. 2/3 of families stick with these healthier defaults. When Google moved M&Ms out of sight at their office snack stations, they reduced employee calorie consumption by 3.1 million calories over 7 weeks. What if supermarkets did the same? What if supermarkets had fresh smells and images of fruit throughout the store? Arrows pointing to the vegetable section, checkout displays with fresh and healthy options, smaller packages, and no unhealthy food marketing to children. We hope you'll join with CSPI to bring about these kinds of changes. Help us work with supermarkets, restaurants, and schools to improve food environments and make healthy eating the easy option. Visit cspinet.org/actnow to learn more and join us.